Hey YouTube, welcome back to another episode of Auntie's Kitchen, simple and delicious food cooked and prepared in South Korea with South Korean ingredients. If you're new to this channel, welcome. And SEO and hi to all the new subscribers this week. Today, I'm going to be showing you my favorite dish to prepare and make, vegetable lasagna with homemade garlic dough balls. And this vegetable lasagna is packed with goodness. We have an assortment of vegetables. Use whatever vegetables you like and that you have available. But today we're going to be using carrots, aubergine, sweet corn, cauliflower, broccoli, peppers, spinach, leeks, courgette, onions and tomato. I really like this recipe because it's a great way of getting in your vegetables. And you'll see today I make a big portion of lasagna. I will section it off and then it goes into our freezer and then we'll have that during the week. I'm going to accompany this with some garlic dough balls, a real simple recipe for making your own little dough balls. You could even put mozzarella cheese in the middle of them and make them just a cheese dough ball. I prefer them with just the garlic butter poured on top of the bread at the end. But serve them, make them however you like them. With my vegetable lasagna, you're going to see that I'll have layers of pasta. If you wanted to make a true vegetable lasagna, then you could take away the pasta and put layers of aubergine or courgette. And you'll see that I use a ricotta cheese with spinach and leeks in between each layer. You could make your own cheese roux sauce and use that to layer in between your lasagna. I personally like a vegetable lasagna with the ricotta cheese as I think the combination really complements each other. You'll also see I won't use too much ricotta cheese. You might want to use a thicker layer of ricotta cheese. I personally like just a small layer and then some cheese on top. So it's not a heavy meal. It is really full of lots of vegetables and it is delicious. So then, let me show you today how we make vegetable lasagna with garlic dough balls. This is such a simple dough recipe. Just add your yeast, salt and flour and some oil. Add your warm water slowly and keep mixing until your dough comes together. You will see in this recipe that I add just a little bit of water at a time as I do not want my mixture to be over wet. Once my dough comes together, I knead it for a little while in the bowl. I roll it into a ball, place it into an oiled bowl and then cover it for about an hour. While my dough is resting, I get on with making the base of my lasagna a tomato sauce. So into a pan, I cook down some onions, garlic and chopped tomatoes. If you don't have much time, just use a shop-bought tomato pasta sauce. Next, I season with oregano, thyme and rosemary and then mix it all together. The tomato sauce is looking great. I had some leftover tomato sauce in my refrigerator, so I add that into my sauce. So I leave it to simmer until the tomatoes are completely broken down while I get on with preparing the rest of my lasagna. If you are interested to see a step-by-step guide of how I make my tomato sauce, check out my meatball video. Now this next step is optional, but I personally feel it works well with a vegetable lasagna, so I pre-soak my lasagna sheets in boiling water and a little oil just to soften them up. Use any pasta sheets you would like, shop-bought or even homemade pasta sheets. As I mentioned earlier, you could also use zucchini or courgette to layer in your lasagna. In the video above, I show you how I cut up and use zucchini instead of pasta to make ravioli. The next step is to prepare my vegetables, so use whatever you like and have available. I cut up and wash some spinach. I use a small tin of sweet corn, but you could use fresh. I cut up some peppers. I try and use not only a selection of different vegetables for texture, but to use a variety of different colours to add to the vibrancy of the lasagna. Cauliflower is one of my favourite vegetables, but it can be expensive in Korea when it's out of season, so I typically only use it when the price is reasonable. The carrots bring a wonderful sweetness to the lasagna. You will notice here that I cut them up in different ways. I'll cut them up into chunks and I'll also cut them up in slices. And as I said before, I like the different textures inside the lasagna. Nothing goes to waste with this lasagna. Any leftover little bits go straight into my sauce. There are many different ways of making a vegetable lasagna, but I personally like to make a layer of spinach with the leeks, vegetable layer and a ricotta cheese layer in between each layer of pasta. The final two vegetables to cut up are my aubergine, otherwise known as eggplant, and my courgette, otherwise known as zucchini, depending which country you are from. The hardest part of making this lasagna is cutting up the vegetables, but I personally find it therapeutic, so I enjoy it. I place my leeks and spinach into a pan with some extra virgin oil and season with some garlic powder and allow the vegetables to cook down, making sure to stir occasionally both pans. Don't forget to season with salt and pepper. I start to put my vegetables into my pan and I realise that the pan is not big enough. So you will see that I switch pans so that I have a big enough pan to hold everything. Once I'm happy with the cook down of the spinach, I will turn off the hob and I will switch sides with the two pans so that I can then focus on my other vegetables. I decide to add some more liquid to my vegetables, so I add about half a tin of tomato paste and 2 large cups of water and allow this to come to the boil and then simmer on the stove. While my vegetables are simmering, I get on with making the ricotta cheese. I add 2 tubs of ricotta cheese, which you can get from Home Plus and Emart, and 2 eggs into a bowl. I cut up a handful of parsley and also add that to the bowl. Season with some salt and pepper. I grate some Parmesan cheese and put that into my bowl. You will notice here I haven't measured out, I just use half of the cheese. I mix up all of the ingredients and now all of the components are ready and we can put our lasagna together. I could eat it just like this and the smell in my kitchen is just fabulous. You will need a deep oven dish, as typically a vegetable lasagna is thicker than just a plain meat lasagna. My favourite part of the process is making the lasagna layers. I start my lasagna with some of the liquid from the sauce, and then I put a layer of pasta. Next, I put on some of my leeks and spinach and spread that about. Next, I put a layer of my vegetables. The last layer is some of that ricotta and Parmesan cheese. As I mentioned before, I don't like it too thick. You could put on more if you want it more cheesy. And then repeat the layers. We personally like about 3 to 4 layers in our lasagna. We have found that that's a perfect balance between vegetables and pasta. So you do exactly the same, layering up until you get to the top layer. For the top layer, I have a layer of pasta. I finish off my ricotta and Parmesan cheese, and then I finally grate just a little bit of Gouda over the top so that this can melt and go nice and crispy and a golden brown on top of the lasagna. I cover the lasagna with some foil, and this will go into my preheated oven, 180°C, for 30 minutes, and then I will remove the foil for the last 15 minutes until the top goes golden brown. While my lasagna was cooking, I separated my dough into 4 smaller balls and also gave these 10 minutes rest. I then brushed them with milk and placed them into my oven. After my lasagna is finished cooking, I turn up the heat to 220 and allow them to cook for 8 to 10 minutes until crispy. Earlier in the day, I'd made some garlic butter, which is garlic, butter and parsley. I melted some garlic and butter on the stove and then added some parsley and allowed this to cool. Place my garlic butter onto the dough balls and allow the heat of the dough balls to melt the butter. As I mentioned earlier, I like to make a large lasagna and I will cut it up and section it off and put some of it into the freezer and save it for a rainy day. The lasagna here, I made my own tomato sauce, and then with the ricotta and the vegetables inside, cooking for 45 minutes in the oven. It is such a delicious lasagna, real easy to make and just wonderful. So as I always say, please don't take my word for it. Now go and cook this for yourself, friends and your family, and even put your own style on it. Thank you for watching. Have a blessed week and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. God bless.